Now let's make a detour into film as we shine our spotlight on first-time filmmaker David Ayeni, whose debut docu-movie Shades of Survival has been nominated and screened at the Cambridge Film Festival as well as the Africa International Film Festival. The veteran broadcast engineer turned filmmaker speaks on his project shot across 5 countries: the United States, the UK, France, South Africa, and Nigeria, telling the stories of Black breast cancer survivors and the associating stigma. According to David, the project takes a unique style of merging real-life events with creative interpretation to create a feature film-like project about real people.
I'm a woman, am I not? Pardon the obvious question. My femininity never used to be in doubt.
There's a part of me that is just constantly scared that the cancer will come back.
So we shot a film called Shades of Survival. Shades of Survival is a documentary on breast cancer and how it affects Black women, both in Africa and Black women in diaspora. It focuses on the shame and the stigma that exists because a lot of women don't want to expose the fact that they have breast cancer. But it also shows hope in new treatments that are made available today that some of them or most of them don't even know exist. However, it also shows the bias in the medical system, especially those living abroad in other countries other than Africa. But also there's also a bias even in Africa, but a lot is in the countries we went to. And another pillar we approached with this film was the pillar of resilience. These women, the ones that have survived, were the ones that were resilient and not taking the first opinion, second opinion. They checked because they knew something, they understood their bodies and knew something had changed. So that's what Shades of Survival is. And we were very, very, what's that word my producer would say? We took a huge leap in shooting in 3 continents. So even though it was my first film, I shot it in 5 countries. So we shot it in the United States, we shot in the UK, we shot in France, we shot in Nigeria, and then we shot in South Africa. And that was because Black women are everywhere in the world. And because of the mortality rate of Black women, both in Africa and abroad, whether in the US or in the UK, it was necessary that we covered them in most of the places where you find loads of Black people. What was different for me was that I had been in television for like 30 years. And in being in television for 30 years, I've had the privilege of traveling to different parts of the world. So for example, I was the regional sales manager for a broadcast company that was based in the US. And it allowed me to travel 9 African countries regularly. And I started seeing the fact that being in, let's say for example, being in somewhere like Tanzania, you know, I was in Zanzibar and I was in a corner, and that corner reminded me of a place I was in Kaduna. Like this, the culture here, I could have sworn that this is one of those streets in Kaduna, everything about the vibe. And I realized we actually, as Africans, we have this culture together. It's in us. And so when I was shooting my film, I had already been to these places. So I knew exactly what shooting in Cape Town could look like, or what shooting in France could look like, because I'd had the opportunities to be there. It wasn't something that was a dream. it was real to me. So coming down to people who are trying to shoot a film, you have to shoot with things you're familiar with. And that was what I did with my film. I had to shoot in places that I was familiar with.
Life, after all, is what we make of it, and how people take that on and how they just bring it into their lives and move on with their lives and are able to cope is inspiring every single day. But there is a group of people that we mustn't marginalize within this whole process, and these are the people with advanced breast cancer.
I have met numerous courageous women on this journey. Their stories have inspired me and convinced me that we need change.
I didn't start my film journey with Shades of Survival. I was going to shoot something else. As a matter of fact, I had started shooting a project. It was going to be my first documentary, which was going to be a series titled Living in Diaspora. So Living in Diaspora was what I started with. I actually had gone to shoot, and like I said to you earlier, I picked a friend that I knew, and this friend is a friend that was born in Kogi State, lived in Kaduna, now lives in Germany, speaks Yoruba, speaks Igala, speaks Hausa, speaks German, and then throw in English and Pidgin English. He speaks 6 languages. And I just thought, and he lives in Germany, and I've seen his journey, and I thought, oh, why don't I tell his story? That's where I started from. And in that series, there's another friend who is a breast cancer survivor, and I added her as someone else that I would tell her story as someone who survived breast cancer while she was in America. But it was while we were shooting that 2 of my good friends, one like a best friend, had breast cancer and said, oh, they want to be a part of this little documentary, that docu-series that I was doing. And I recorded them, but the 2 that joined died within 6 months after we recorded, and they died 6 weeks apart from each other. But it was that journey that changed, and I shelved Living in Diaspora, and I started shooting Shades of Survival. And now Shades of Survival took me 3 years plus to finish.
David mentioned one life is too much.